Hey everybody, Jeep Landish here, coming at you with a short video. We're just going to transition over from myself doing most of the work on the TJ to showing that one of your young kids can get involved with working on their vehicles. I have Natalie, the owner of the TJ. She's going to be just working on checking the front differential fluid, draining it, taking the diff cover off, recreating the gasket seal, and checking, for metal shavings and whatnot in the front diff, since we just fixed the back. And then she's going to put it all back together, and she's going to fill it up, and we're going to go ahead and take it out for another test ride, just to make sure everything's moving smoothly. So we're going to get to checking this stuff out, and I'm going to let her do some of the talking, and here we go.
Hey, what's going on? It's Natalie. So the first part of this project that we're going to be doing is I'm going to take off the diff cover and try to get some of that gear oil out so that I can put some new in. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to completely take off the bottom 3 bolts and then drain as much as I can, and then work my way up and remove the rest of them to get the entire diff cover off. I have with me 3/8 inch ratchet with a 1/2 inch socket, and then I also have a power ratchet as well as a screwdriver if I need to pry open the diff cover. I will also add that you might want to have a pry bar or some extra wrenches with you, because you're probably going to need as much torque and leverage as you can possibly get. These bolts are underneath the vehicle, and so they're always exposed to harsh road conditions, and sometimes it's very difficult to get them off. So with that, let's get started. Alright, so I'm going to start working on these bottom 3 bolts here, and we're just going to loosen them as much as we can. We already went in with the pry bar and loosened some of them up, as well as we took some wrenches and tried to get as much leverage as we possibly could. Some of these bolts were a little stripped from hitting things on the road, and so they were a little difficult, but we made it work. I bought this vehicle from a private seller, so unfortunately sometimes you run into some issues that you can't really control. So now I'm just going to go in with the cordless ratchet. Make sure that drip pan is right underneath. Take those out. Make sure you keep a good eye on them, don't lose any. Then I'm going to test with this screwdriver and see if I can break the gasket seal and get some of that oil to come out without having to take the entire diff cover off, because that'll be messy. So we attempted to just work with the bottom 3, but it looks like the gasket seal is pretty good, and we're going to have to take some more of these bolts off. So I'm going to go back with that cordless ratchet and work my way up to the top now. Looks like we've got some ID tag there. We have the screwdriver underneath there, and we definitely have some oil coming out, as you can see. So we're just going to let gravity do most of the work for us, and make sure that it's getting in the drip pan. And if I need to, I'll open it up a little bit more. Littlest bit of pressure on the screwdriver, and I'm barely doing any work. Alright, so we've got most of the oil drained out, so I want to take the rest of the cover off, so I'm just going to take care of these 3 bolts up here. See if I can get this one with the little ratchet a little bit. Could be a little looser. I'm actually going to tackle this top one with just a normal ratchet because it's hard to get larger tools in there. So we're just gonna turn it. It's the thing sometimes underneath the vehicle, sometimes this is not turning. That's that. Now I'm going to very gently remove the diff cover, and that's part 1, step 1 done. Now I'm going to get my diff cover out of the way, and I have a razor with me here with me that I'm going to use to try to remove some of this silicone gasket. It's looks like most of it actually came off with this part of the differential cover, so that's good. Gentle pressure just to clean this surface off. You want a nice smooth surface for the new gasket to go onto. So with the areas where it's kind of accumulated around where the bolts go, some of it you can just remove with your fingers. And that's that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take a rag and try to clean out as much of the excess oil and dirt around this side. You want to keep this area clean. You don't want to contaminate it with pieces of the gasket falling off or any dirt or anything else from underneath the vehicle. So I'm going to wipe that as much as I can. You want to stay away from the gears as much as you can, except for to wipe little pieces of dirt off, but don't go too crazy when it comes to wiping near the gears, because you want those to stay nice and oiled and shiny. So now I'm just going to take an extended magnet tool and a flashlight, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of sweep around in the bottom of the diff cover and see if there's any chips of metal in there. And I'm going to take a good look at my ring and pinion as well as the spider gears here in the middle, because I want to make sure that everything's looking normal. It was an issue that we had with the rear differential. We had some chipping in the gears, unfortunately, so I want to just double check and make sure that everything's ready to go. So, spider gears look good. There's really no chipping. Teeth are where they're supposed to be, and it looks mostly like normal wear on a 17-year-old vehicle. Same thing with my pinion, as well as some planetary gears in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and with that magnet, just kind of sweep around. Might get a little oily, but that's okay. Can go up a little bit into the spider gears as well, but like I said, everything's kind of looking good, which is good to know. So, alright, so I've gone ahead and kind of sweeped everything out. You can see there's still some oil in there, but that's alright, and no metal, and everything looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and work on getting some new oil into the diff, and then getting that cover back on. Alright, so now I'm going to work on cleaning off the diff cover, just, again, removing all of that silicone gasket from the old one, and making sure that I have a nice smooth surface for when I reapply. And it's really super easy. Just take the razor and scrape it off. It's really important that you clean this part off because you want a nice airtight seal with that new gasket silicone. Because if you don't have a nice seal, then it will leak, and then you will have a lot of issues. Alright, we've got the cover all cleaned up, and now that it's nice and clean, we're going to go ahead and put some of this gasket sealant on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze it out and then go around the bolt holes and make sure that it stays on the lip. You don't want any really getting into the dish of the cover. So I'm just going to start here and draw a bead. That gasket seal on, so I'm going to start lining up cover to reapply. I've got a bolt here, and just start finding holes. I'm going to keep hand tightening these bolts in until we have enough to hold it in place that we can start working with a ratchet. So we've got all the bolts hand tightened, and now I'm just taking a rag and kind of trying to clean off some of the excess gasket sealer that was leaking out, because we're going to start actually tightening these now, and we want it to be as clean as possible. So I'm going to go back in with that 1/2-inch socket. I'm going to start with the wrench because they're mostly tightened, so I'm just going to tighten them. And when you're tightening these, you want to make sure that just like on a wheel, you want to tighten them in like a cross pattern. So I'm starting with this bolt, which means I'm moving to this one next. You're always going to go diagonal to the next side. So and as you can see, some of that sealant is starting to come out, so I'll just quick clean it up, get it in there. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's all going to get cleaned at the very end anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and finish tightening these all the way, and I'll get back to you when they're all torqued on. Alright, so we've got the diff cover back on, all the bolts are tightened, so now I'm going to go ahead and start the process of refilling it with diff fluid. We're using 80 weight gear oil, so I have a 3/8 inch extension on this ratchet, and I'm going to go ahead and just take this plug out. now that that's out, I'm gonna go ahead and use a siphon pump to siphon the oil in there until it gets to the top. You'll know you're done when the oil starts to pour out. Then I'll reattach this plug and we'll get back to you when we have our test drive. Alright, so we have the diff cover back on. It is filled up with differential fluid, and now we're going to go ahead and take the Jeep for a test drive, make sure everything's running smoothly and the way it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start the car and take you along with me. Alright, here we go. So I am just going ahead, taking this bad boy around the corner, making sure that it turns well and that it steers smoothly. That's what we're looking for. Everything feels good so far. Feels like the drivetrain is moving nicely. Something that we noticed with our issue with the rear differential is that whenever I shifted, it actually kind of made a clunking noise and things weren't running smoothly, and we fixed the differential and it actually improved it. Something that I absolutely love about this TJ is that it is kind of just the perfect car for me, and it's always ready for an adventure. As much as I spend so much time fixing it, I do enjoy getting to drive it around afterwards, and it's always nice to have a car that is ready for adventure. So I went ahead and made a couple turns, and everything seems to be turning smoothly. No weird sounds, no weird motions, noises, things like that. It's always something we want when we go for a test drive, because that tells me that everything that I fixed is good to go and that I don't need to get back under the vehicle and improve it again. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull the Jeep back into the driveway, and catch up with you later. Alright guys, thanks for going on that test drive with me. I think it went well, and I think that the project was a success, so we're going to call it a day. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like and a comment, start a conversation, and we'll see you for our next project. Bye!